Long as you're living, always remember, you'll never beat life. Don't try to cheat life. All men are brothers, do unto others. Love's for enjoying, hate's for destroying. Never forget it, or you'll regret it. Long as you're living. Forgive me if I seem to preach, but there is something that I want to say, a message that I hope will reach people who are throwing life away. I call it my philosophy. That is why I pass it on to you, because it works so well for me and helps me get away from strife. I hope you listen carefully. They say the truth will make you free, and that's the way you wanna be, 'cause brother, this is your life.
Brother, this is your life. As long as you're living, remember, time is for spending and there is an ending. Wake up and taste it. It's foolish to waste it. Sample and savor all of its flavor as long as you're living. This is your life. It's not a dress rehearsal. It is an improvisation. Do you ever wonder why so many people don't savor the flavor of life? I know one reason: uncertainty. Yes, uncertainty. Now, of course, there are some people who savor the flavor of uncertainty, people who feel like it keeps life interesting, not knowing for sure what's going to happen in the future. Uncertainty means our fate is not sealed. It means there are new possibilities yet to unfold. Now, there are some who savor that flavor, but for most of us, the uncertainty of the human condition is as scary as anything. Now, if you're like me, you prefer to be certain, to feel in control and confident, to know what's going to happen next and why? Or is that just me? Most of us like a fair amount of predictability. So it's no comfort to hear someone say, if you ever think that you've created a controlled, predictable life for yourself, you can rest assured that's an illusion. Or as one person put it, knowing how to live with insecurity is the only security there is. Now, we know this here in Oklahoma. When the skies turn black in the middle of the day and the clouds start pointing towards the ground, we run to our closets or our basements or hunker down in our bathtub, hoping but never sure whether our house or we are going to be there when it all blows over. Or on the road, you never know what's going to happen. One time I was changing lanes, getting off of Highway 75. Traffic was slow, and I had my turn signal on. The person behind me was driving a van. He didn't slow down to let me in. Instead, he sped up, and he rammed right into me at an accelerating speed. Now, I knew he had to see me. I mean, I was right there. Everything was going really slow. And I couldn't figure out what on earth had happened. It turns out he was 16 years old, and he was driving his mother's van. She was in a wheelchair, and he was picking up the van from the mechanic for her. They just made the gas pedal and the brake pedals into hand controls so that she could drive it. He pushed the gas rather than the brake when he saw me merging by mistake. The point is that you and I can be the best drivers in the world, but there's still hundreds of other drivers on the road. I think about this a lot right now because my son just learned to drive. He has his first car. So if I had any illusion of being in control, that's cured it. I can't know for sure when he leaves if he's going to be safe. Every time he pulls out of the driveway, I just hope for the best. And we've all known and heard stories about people who are perfectly healthy and happy, going about their lives, and then the next day they find out that they have a life-threatening illness. You never know. Have you ever had a simple surgical procedure and they make you sign all these forms? Suddenly you realize that there's a chance that you might not wake up or walk out or ever be the same again. You think you know the person who you live with better than anyone else, and then you find out they've done something you'd never expect. There's a good reason why most of us don't like uncertainty. In an article called Stumbling on Happiness, Dan Gilbert, a professor of psychology at Harvard, writes, "People feel worse when they think something bad might occur than when they know something bad will occur. We feel worse when we think something bad might occur than we do when we know something bad will occur." In other words, we'd rather know something bad is going to happen for sure than to have to wonder if it might happen. Gilbert explains that most of us aren't losing sleep and sucking down Marlboros because the Dow Jones is going to lose another 1,000 points, but because we don't know whether it's going to fall or not. Research shows that human beings find uncertainty more painful than the actual things that they're uncertain about. Why is that? Why do we prefer to know the worst than to suspect it? He says, because when we get bad news, we weep for a while, and then we get busy making the best of it. We change our behavior, we change our attitude, we raise our consciousness and lower our expectations. We find our bootstraps and tug. But we can't come to terms with circumstances whose terms we don't yet know. An uncertain future leaves us stranded in an unhappy present with nothing to do but wait. It can be hard to savor the flavor of life when we are awake to its uncertainty. It's incredible and undeniable uncertainty. So, in religious terms, many people take a leap of faith. They jump over their reason, they jump over their experiences of the world in order to believe in something so that they can feel certain about something. Many will believe in things like a literal virgin birth and other miracles, or a literal resurrection of someone from the dead. And it gives them reassurance that life is not random and that they can be assured of a place in a wonderful heaven after they die. There's something to be said to feeling certain about the veracity of Scripture and God. It provides some relief from the immense and ever-present uncertainty of this life and of our death. But for those of us who don't, won't, and can't take a leap of faith over our experience, over our reason, for those of us who've been there, done that, and didn't find it that satisfying, well, then we have to learn how to live with uncertainty. It helps to practice mindfulness, to learn to live in the present moment. It helps to trust that whatever happens, we can handle it. Most of all, it requires a lot of love to get us through when things don't go our way. But uncertainty isn't all bad. Today I want to look at how uncertainty can be a gift. We can learn a lot from musicians, like our fabulous musicians this morning, from jazz musicians, people who know how to improvise. One thing that makes jazz so thrilling is when the musicians exchange extemporaneous notes and play back and forth, jumping off of whatever the other musician might decide to do, as we saw so beautifully this morning. Classically trained violist Matthew Barley tells the story, the first time I ever put bow to string and played without notes was in a general musicianship class at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in 1985. And it was genuinely terrifying. It was hard enough playing in front of your peers when someone else was responsible for the notes. In this case, I had to play a melody over a piece of Baroque piano music that the professor was playing, and I'm quite sure it sounded like rubbish. There were other occasions that followed, once in a jazz class and several other times. The experiences were very frightening, and yet the fear was also exhilarating. Some psychologists might say it was the fear of freedom we all have that also has an irresistible pull at the same time. Whatever it was, it wouldn't leave me alone, he says. I fell in love with the thrill of sitting in front of an expectant audience, not knowing what note I'd play until I played it. And here is the magic of improvisation, that anything can happen, and that whatever does happen is influenced by whatever the musician chooses to be receptive to in the moment. He goes on, sometimes as I come on stage, the hall feels restless, people rushing in from a busy day of work, and I'll just take it slow and easy and ease the concert with some improvisation. Or if the hall feels sleepy, I'll try and do something to wake people up. Improvisation can teach a musician what it really means to be playing in the moment. With a repertoire, you can go on automatic, but when you're making up the notes as it happens, there's nowhere to hide. Barley always reminds people when teaching improvisation that once upon a time, we all improvised. All toddlers spend many pleasant hours inventing songs, stories, dances, games, and more. In fact, every time we have a conversation, we're improvising. Now, as I read his story, it struck me that here at All Souls, we have a kind of jazz religion. Think about it. You know, having a scripture is a lot like having a score of music. You try to live and play and follow what's written on the page, in the book. In our free faith, there's truly an improvisational quality. We remain open to learning and gathering inspiration from whatever may come. Without moral codes and commandments spelled out specifically, we have to improvise sometimes, making decisions in the moment about what we believe is right and wrong. Barley explains that one of the greatest joys of being an improviser in music is that he can play with practically any musician in the world. It's like being fluent in dozens of languages. He says, I've just been working with Sufi musicians from Iran, he writes, and over the years I've played traditional instruments from Japan and Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand, India, Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, many places in Africa, Colombia, Hawaii, and with rappers and jazzers and DJs and pop musicians. He says, it makes the world much smaller and much bigger and richer all at the same time. In a similar way, one of the joys of jazz religion is that we can learn from and even worship and practice with anyone of any culture and any tradition. We can enjoy chanting with Gregorian priests, sitting with Buddhist masters, breathing and stretching with Hindu gurus, sharing Shabbat with Jewish friends, swirling with Sufis, and delighting and learning from the stories and scriptures of many lands and cultures and faiths. One of the best things about not being so certain is that it leaves room for new ideas and new discoveries. I was reading a story this summer about Charles Darwin by the author and educator Gail Forsyth Vale, who tells us both of Darwin's grandfathers, Josiah Wedgwood and Erasmus Darwin, were free thinkers and Unitarians, as was his mother, Susanna. It turns out that Charles Darwin was a religious skeptic, believe it or not. When his 10-year-old daughter died, he lost all faith in religion, preferring to take a walk rather than attend church on Sundays. From the time he was a little boy, Charles was an explorer. He loved to roam the fields and hills near his home in Shrewsbury, England. He was fascinated by the movements of small animals and insects, and he knew each wildflower by name. He was curious about everything he saw and heard and touched, wondering at the lives of ants and butterflies, examining and collecting rocks, observing grasses, trees, leaves, and flowers that provided homes for his absolute favorite creature, the beetle. Curiosity about the wonder of life and the world and the human's place in it was a gift given to Charles by both of his grandfathers. As Unitarians, they believed that human beings did not know all the answers to life's great questions. And it was in that not knowing, that uncertainty about life, that opened him up. They taught him that the clues were to be found in observing the world around him. When Charles was 8 years old, his mother died. Not long after that, his father decided to send him away to school so that he might learn Greek and Latin and ancient history. But Charles was more interested in the workings of an anthill or the mysteries found in a rock pile. At every opportunity, he took long walks outdoors, watching, listening, and collecting. He delighted in figuring out why creatures behave the way they do and how the natural world works. He was very interested in collecting beetles. In fact, one day, Charles tore a piece of bark off of a tree, and he saw two rare kinds of beetles. He had one in each hand when he saw a third, and he wanted it for his collection, so he quickly popped one beetle in his mouth in order to grab the third, with bad results. The beetle squirted something nasty, and Charles was forced to spit it out. Curiosity and uncertainty is not for the faint of heart. His research on beetles led him on to a research ship to the Galapagos off of Ecuador, where he eventually solved a major part of the great puzzle that had been called up till that time the mystery of mysteries. How all of the different forms of life on earth came to be. It was his freedom to think, his willingness to be surprised, that allowed Darwin to be who he was. When I was telling one person about my message today, what I was going to be saying today, she told me a story about her grandfather who accepted the theory of evolution to the point that he no longer could see any redeeming qualities in any religion or any religious people at all. In some ways, her grandfather replaced the need for certainty that many find in religion with a kind of certainty in evolution to the point that he became closed off to anything that smacked of religious. And so this scientific certainty caused him to be closed off to a lot of people in his life and a lot of possibilities that can be learned from the great cultures and traditions of the world. It just shows us how strong the desire to avoid uncertainty is in a world as seemingly capricious as ours. Now, here at All Souls, we acknowledge uncertainty and impermanence as the nature of existence. It comes with its struggles, but we know that it can also be a gift. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm grateful to have such a community of free thinkers where we're not asked to take a leap of faith over our reason and over our own experiences, and where we can cherish our doubts and trust our experiences and live with authenticity amidst life's incredible fierceness and beauty. This is your life. Savor all of its flavor. You are not alone. I love you.
you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.